The air smelled of fresh-cut grass and spite when I first saw Karen's neon yellow HOA violation notice taped to my mailbox. It flapped in the late summer breeze. A garish accusation screaming in Comic Sans. Unauthorized storage of dangerous weapons. Immediate action required. My jaw clenched so hard my teeth ached. I'd moved to this cookie-cutter suburban hellhole for peace. Not for Karen's clipboard tyranny. 25 years in the Secret Service. Dodging bullets and babysitting presidents. And now this. A nosy neighbor with a power trip trying to gut my life over a few shotguns in my garage. I crumpled the notice. The paper crackling like my patience. And stormed back inside. Karen didn't know who she was messing with. But she was about to find out. The house was quiet. Too quiet. The kind of stillness that hums in your ears after a lifetime of chaos. I'd bought this place in Willow Creek Estates to disappear. To trade Kevlar for flannel and stake out adrenaline for a lawnmower's drone. My wife, Ellie, was gone 3 years now, cancer. Quick and cruel, and the kids were grown. Scattered across the country. All I had left were routines, coffee at dawn, tinkering with my old Chevy, and the occasional range day with my shotguns. They weren't just guns. They were relics of my past. Each one tied to a mission. A memory. A life I'd left behind. Karen's notice wasn't just an annoyance, it was a declaration of war on the only pieces of me that still felt real. I cracked open a beer, the cold aluminum biting my palm, and sat at the kitchen table, staring at the crumpled notice. The fridge hummed softly, a low, steady pulse that matched my rising pulse. Karen had been sniffing around for months, complaining about my unmowed lawn. My truck parked an inch off center. My dogs bark at 6 a.m. I'd ignored her, kept my head down. But this, reporting my shotguns to the HOA based on some half-baked suspicion, that was a line crossed. I could still hear her shrill voice from last week's HOA meeting. Her pearl-clutching outrage when she saw me carry a locked gun case from my truck to the garage. "This is a family neighborhood, Mr. Callahan," she'd shrieked, as if I'd been waving an AK-47 at the kids on their scooters. I just nodded, fighting back the urge to tell her I'd protected 3 presidents with less drama than she caused over a Petunia border. The next morning, I was pruning my hedges more to keep my hands busy than to please the when I heard the crunch of gravel behind me. I turned, shears in hand, to see Karen strutting up my driveway, her blonde bob bouncing like a bad infomercial. She held another notice, this one pink, and her eyes gleamed with the kind of smugness that makes you want to punch a wall. "Mr. Callahan," she said, voice dripping with fake sweetness. "I hope you've addressed the issue. The board takes safety very seriously." I wiped sweat from my brow, the metallic tang of the shears lingering on my gloves. "Karen," I said, low and even, "you've got no idea what you're stirring up." Her smile faltered, just for a second, but she recovered, thrusting the pink slip at me. "You have until Friday to comply, or we'll escalate to the authorities." She spun on her heels, leaving a cloud of floral perfume and my blood boiling. I didn't sleep that night. The house creaked, the wind rattling the windows like a warning. I sat in the dark, sipping whiskey, the burn in my throat matching the fire in my chest. Karen thought she could bully me, thought her HOA rulebook gave her power over a man who'd stared down assassins. She didn't know I'd spent decades reading people spotting lies in a twitch of an eye, a hitch in a breath. She didn't know I'd already clocked her late-night inspections of my property, her flashlight darting across my garage windows like a nervous tick. She thought she was clever, but she was sloppy, and sloppy gets you caught. The next day, I made a call, not to the HOA, not to a lawyer, but to Tommy, an old service buddy who owed me a favor. Tommy was a tech wizard, the kind of guy who could hack a smart fridge to spill its secrets. "Need you to dig into someone," I said, my voice rough from lack of sleep. "Karen Whitaker, Willow Creek HOA president. Find me something I can use." Tommy chuckled, the sound crackling through the phone. "You going rogue on a soccer mom, Jack?" I didn't laugh. "Just get it done." By Thursday, Tommy delivered. I met him at a diner 2 towns over, the kind of place that smells of grease and regret. He slid a manila envelope across the sticky table, his grin all teeth. Your HOA queen's got skeletons, he said. I flipped through the pages, my pulse quickening. Karen wasn't just a busybody, she was skimming HOA funds, funneling them into her boutique's failing accounts. Fake invoices, backdated checks, the works. It was amateur hour, but enough to bury her. I leaned back, the vinyl booth squeaking, and let out a long, slow breath. Good work, Tommy, I said, already plotting my next move. That night, I saw headlights in my driveway. Not Karen's pristine Lexus, but a beat-up sedan I didn't recognize. The driver's door opened, and a kid stepped out, early 20s. Skinny, with a hoodie pulled low. He moved fast, slipping something under my welcome mat before peeling out. I retrieved it, a folded note. Handwritten. No signature. Back off, Callahan, or the cops get an anonymous tip about your arsenal. My stomach twisted. Karen wasn't working alone. Someone was watching. Someone with enough guts to threaten a man like me. The note smelled faintly of cigarette smoke, and I caught a glimpse of a tattoo on the kid's wrist as he'd sped off a snake coiled around a dagger. I knew that ink. Local gang. Small time. But trouble. Friday morning. The HOA meeting was at the community center, a sterile box of a building that reeked of cheap coffee and bureaucracy. Karen stood at the podium, her voice a grating mix of condescension and cheer, rallying the neighbors against threats to our community's safety. I sat in the back, my hands folded, watching her performance. The room was packed: soccer moms, retirees, a few dads sneaking glances at their phones. I waited until she mentioned my name, her lips curling around Mr. Callahan's dangerous habits. Then I stood. Karen, I said, my voice cutting through the room like a blade. Heads turned. Her eyes widened. Just a flicker, but I caught it. You've been real busy, haven't you? Digging into my life, reporting my property, sending kids to my house with threats. The room went still, the air thick with curiosity. I held up Tommy's envelope, letting it dangle like a guillotine. Funny thing, though, I did some digging of my own. I walked forward, slow, deliberate, my boots echoing on the linoleum. HOA funds going missing. Your boutique's new inventory looking a little too fancy for a failing business. Her face drained of color, her hands gripping the podium like a lifeline. I didn't stop. I laid out the evidence dates, amounts, the fake invoices Tommy had uncovered. The crowd murmured, shifting in their seats, their eyes darting between me and Karen. She tried to interrupt, her voice shrill, but I kept going, my words steady, relentless. And let's talk about your friend in the sedan. Karen, the one with the snake tattoo. You really thought a gangbanger could scare me. I leaned in, my voice dropping to a growl. I protected presidents. You think I'm afraid of you? The room erupted. Neighbors shouted questions, demanded answers. Karen stammered, her perfect facade cracking like cheap glass. I didn't need to say more. The truth was a wildfire, and she was burning. By the end of the night, the board voted to remove her as president. She fled the room, her heels clicking frantically, leaving behind a trail of whispers and her crumpled pink notice on the floor. But it wasn't over. That night, I sat on my porch, the air heavy with the scent of rain. My dog, Max, lay at my feet, his low growl echoing my unease. The sedan was back, parked across the street, its engine idling like a predator's breath. I didn't move, didn't flinch, just sipped my whiskey and waited. The kid stepped out. Same hoodie, same tattoo. He didn't approach, just stood there, staring. I raised my glass, a silent toast. He got the message and drove off. The next week, the local paper ran a story. HOA president ousted amid embezzlement scandal. Karen's boutique closed. Her Lexus vanished from the neighborhood. Word was she'd moved, tail between her legs, to some other suburb to terrorize. The kid with the tattoo, picked up by the cops for unrelated charges, thanks to an anonymous tip. I leaned back in my chair, the weight of the fight lifting like fog. My shotgun stayed in the garage, untouched, a quiet reminder of who I was, who I still am. Justice isn't always a courtroom or a badge. Sometimes it's just a man who's had enough, standing his ground. refusing to bow. I looked out at the quiet street, the houses glowing softly under the streetlights. And for the first time in months, I smiled. Karen thought she could break me, but she forgot one thing. I faced worse than her and walked away. Always will.